thanks for coming. This presentation, if you have questions or you want to lead it somewhere else as we go, I'm more than happy to lead it wherever you want. But I'm going to talk a little bit about offensive spacing. So some of the concepts you will have heard about before, and I'm just bringing them up to make sure we know about them before we move on to the next bit. So I'm much better on a court, I think, than on the board. So hopefully it will transfer on the board. I haven't done a lot in classrooms. I'm usually on the court. So first thing I wanted to speak about is if you don't have spacing, there's no offence. Okay, if you have players standing next to each other, you're not going to get some clear offence. So the way to get good offence is to space and then create someone to come and then kick the ball to the next one. Okay, so spacing is certainly, and you can do it without screens, and I'm going to talk about that to start with. You can just do it by ball movement. All right, so spacing, we've probably all heard split kick extra, so I'm just going to go through that firstly. So if we had someone, we'll just do it simply first and let me know if you can't see it or if it doesn't make sense. So first of all, if the person has the ball here and they're going to penetrate here, generally they've got their player and they'll probably bring this player in a little bit as well. So at that point, they've caused a split and they're going to kick the ball out. Okay, so if this player's here, they're going to kick it out to here, then their player closes out. On that, they kick it to the next one and there's another closeout. So the more closeouts you can create, the more space you're going to have. So has everyone heard a bit about that concept? Okay, so the reason I want to bring that up, I think it's a really important part of basketball, but sometimes you just see, and I think we did it tonight at training, if you watched us train, we come in here and we create this person to come, she throws and the defence does a good job on the extra, and then now it's a contested three. That's probably, unless you're Jenna O'Hay or someone that's going to shoot 50%, that's probably not a great shot. So although we want this concept, the extra pass at that point, it should be penetrated again. Okay, because once someone's closing out at you, they're close enough, you should take whichever way they're sending you. So, I mean, in good terms, we'd like to go back to the middle, but if they've closed you out because that's your best term, then you've got to penetrate down there and see what you get to draw you the next way. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that first. I've got some clips, so I'll talk about it, then we'll watch the clips and it'll probably be a little easier. The other part of offence is offence in the full court. So in transition, we try and box out, get a rebound and get it to a ball carrier. So some people, and I think in juniors, it should be any ball carrier. You know, don't pigeonhole because they're probably kids that are going to grow and not grow. So it's really difficult if you pigeonhole them and, you know, you use them as a 5-man and they're only 5 foot and they never grow, then you're in trouble. Okay, so generally we try to outlay it, say, to the 1-man, and at that point we want to play with pace. So we get our 2s and 3s to sprint as fast as they can down this direction. So there's our 2-man and our 3-man. So we try and throw it up. So if their defence is in here and we can throw it up, they can keep coming in here to get a layup. Okay? If their defence is on them and they're not open, they must go to the corners. So you'll see in our clips, sometimes as the Opals we do a good job of getting the corners and sometimes we don't. But in perfect world, if they're not going to get the ball, we want them right down near the baseline. We don't want them, if that's the baseline, we don't want them to step off because that's spacing, I'm getting into someone's space. So you have to be right in the baseline. Okay, you can still shoot that shot, but we're going to drag them. Okay? At that point, out of our 4 and 5, we interchange those a bit because sometimes you might have a 5-man that's not quite as fast down, so the 4-man's going to beat them down. So we're going to get them to run on the rim. So whether it's the 5-man or the 4-man. Okay, so we might be able to throw the ball here and then punch it straight in. If their defence is behind there, that's the look that we're going to try and get. Okay, so we're going to encourage our 5-man to do that. Okay. Our 1-man might dribble down here, they might cross to the other side, and at that point our 4-man that's trailing, we call this the tunnel. So the line with the foul line extended, this area here, we call that the tunnel. And for spacing, we're going to ask our 4-man to stop on the side of the tunnel, not to come into the middle, because once again, different spacing. If you're here and the ball's here, your player's right here. But if you're out here and the ball's here, now there's some space for someone to penetrate or dive into or move into. Okay? With the 5-man, there's a few things you can do. I mean, a lot of teams send the 5-man. Well, if you've got a big 5-man like we have with Liz, I would ask her to come ball side straight away. You know, if we've got a big monster that you think you can post up, I would get them to come ball side. If not, we peel them out there and try and get them off there to take some space. Not high up in the post because their player's going to be in the middle, but if they can drag them down, then we can have a little bit of more space and then we can play with it. You can tell my boards in a game would be a mess, wouldn't you? Sorry. So we've got 2s, 3, 1 and 4. So now we can use to penetrate. So if we penetrate here, if she comes off, we can pass it here. Okay, if she penetrates here, we get her to roll into here and use space. Okay, and then we get penetrate, there might be this person, and then we get her to float into the diagonal here. So we just continuously try and move. One thing I do with my kids, junior kids, is to try and teach spacing. You guys, some of you guys got young kids you coach. Just do little drills where it's 2 on 0. So you can just have them lined up here. And if she penetrates, we teach them that they're on a string. So they've got to keep the same distance. So they know that they've got to move into here. If she penetrates this way, they're on a string and they go behind them. So you can just do little simple drills like that that teaches them when the ball moves, then they have to move. Okay? Because if you stand in the same spot, you're probably taking someone's space. Okay? All right, we might go to the clips. That's all right. All right, so we get a rebound and we outlet it to a guard. At this point, you can see our 2s, and Sammy Whitcomb is probably, she's the master of it because she loves space, because shooters love space. So they get out and go. Now, at this point, her player is not guarding her, so she doesn't have to go to the corner here. So at this point, she can just go and get a layup. So that's the first decision. We're trying to make the players make decisions out there. Rather than us telling them where to go, they make a decision depending on the spacing. So we get out to here. You can see Alana Smith is a hard, and you know, probably bunts, we probably don't want both our bigs running together, but if they run hard, we can go straight onto the rim here. So it's a nice rim pass.
You just got commentary as well, Cheryl.
Okay, so just go back a bit, guys. We're just sorry. Some of these clips are short because there are ads in it. Sorry. Okay, so at this point, you can't even, I don't even know who it is in the corner, but this person in the corner has got this layup for Ezzy. Okay, and also those people running wide. So you can see the other 4-man's out of the tunnel. So look at all that blue area. So that's just creating offense by space. Nothing creative. It's just using space to get a nice little layup. So here we're out on the fast break. We've got our 4, just go back a bit. So this number 2, Tess, I don't know if everyone knows, she makes this person play her. So at the point she sees her to start to change her footwork, so she's still running. Now she's changed her footwork, so she's going to guard her. She made that player guard her. Now it's time to skip the ball. So she goes through, and now there's 2 on 1. 2 on 1, we slip to the corner, open 3. Maybe at juniors you don't always want to take the open 3, you can step it in. So just go back here. So this is, everyone did their job, so it created some offense. So stop here, we've got a person in the corner, she's creating space. We've got the 5-man here creating all sorts of space, and she gets past her player. So at that point, she's got a straight line to the basket, and no one can help to guard her. Once again, done without screens, and it's just people getting to the right spots. Okay, if that doesn't happen, sometimes we'll just come and create a screen. I'm saying we're doing it without screens, but we just put a drag screen in. So Alana Smith's come in here, we've played, and just stop it there. So she's come off. Now, Alana Smith might be free, but look at a great teammate here who knows space. She's saying who's free over here. Okay, so it's not free, we throw it here. Once again, this is this decision making. We've got to teach players, because if that was a normal kick, we'd say, oh, shoot that 3 no matter what. Okay, but she uses her nous, gets her, knows she's got her on her side, and now we're all in sorts of trouble. Just hold it there. So Alana Smith, probably this one here, we'd probably want to keep her out. She's run on top of here, but it does work, so now she's got through. But if she was out in the corner, there would be a free spot again, and Jenna would have an easier layup. Once again, no screens, we're just using space to get to the rack. Okay, space again. So it might be that we want her in the corner, but she brings it up here. Look at all this space we've got free. There's so much room in there, time and time again, just because people are getting to the right spots, and she gets a layup. Okay, hold it there. So sometimes it's not penetrating, it is a pass in. So a pass into the post does the same as penetration. She shoots this, but if you have a look when she catches it, she's strong enough, but on the weak side there, there's open people as well. Okay, so it doesn't just have to be the penetration in that creates the defence to move and then you get to space. You can throw it into a post player, an art that we don't do very much. Well, in Victoria, at a junior level, we don't do that a lot. We play out at the 3-point line a lot of the time, which is a philosophy, I guess. Okay, that's into the post. There's 2 on her. Now look, we've got great space. We've got people holding and making sure they find space, and we have some person on the rim to take the pressure off, throw, extra. That's the right decision to take that shot because she's a great 3-point shooter. Okay, you have moved to get some space. Once again, we keep our space. Now just stop there. Katie does a great job. So we've created the extra help. She's kicked it. We've got the extra. She makes a good decision. And look, that's left Liz. They don't know who to guard anymore because they've taken the big player out of there. Well, that's a great pass because it usually, just go back, sorry guys, working you out. So when the guard's under there, Tessa Levy's under there, I mean the most obvious pass is this one, and as teams get better, see how she takes that away, she sees that, and she gets the person straight up the top. So she holds her space, doesn't creep in, and she should have taken a 3 instead of a 2. Okay, just hold it there. So sometimes what we'll do to create space is we'll clear the weak side out. So this is just so that there's no split line help. So we've all gone this way, and now we've just got a misdirection where there's no help for Liz. We can throw the lob and she can make the shot pretty easy. Liz getting her stats up, I think. Okay, we get a bit congested. Now we move it out to get our space again. We've got people in the corner, but we've got the kickback. Often the kickback's nice and free. So as you can see, you can just by teaching your players, and if we had a court, if you teach your players where to spot up and when to move as that happens, you can get lots of scores without setting screens, rather than seeing, down screen, cross screen, or these days pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. Okay, so there is a way to score, and they're going to be better basketballers at the end of it. If you can teach a kid to think, or a player to think and make decisions, they're going to be good basketballers when they're, 18, 19, 20. Okay, you teach a kid just to come off a screen, they're probably going to be a good basketballer, I don't know, until under 18s or something, until everyone can guard them. So it's a really good tool to teach them spacing. So, any questions before I hand over to the boys? Yeah.
How long do you stay in your transition offense before you, how many passes, how do you know when you're going to go into your offense?
generally, if we've flown into a transition offence, we're probably going to stay and just keep moving the ball continuously. We'd get into some drag screens or some thumbs out, but we generally, because we've already used part of that clock, we probably wouldn't move it back out and do it. But if they stopped our transition, then we would do a secondary offence. But we would try and explore everything, because if we're in transition, generally we've got an advantage. You know, you've already got to move in because you've pushed the ball with pace. So if we did. And they were all back 5-on-5, we might just stand up, we would run a play then. But we would try and run transition while we had the advantage. So.
Just a couple of quick ones, more for the younger ages. When is the best time to introduce pick and roll? Is it under 14, under 12? I don't know what a coach is doing differently. And then off that, when's the best time to start teaching kids to get outside the three-point line and space outside the three-point line?
Look, I'm probably answering that question because I've done more girls coaching than boys coaching. I have done a little bit of my own boys, but generally at under 14s, I would start to try and teach them the more screening principles. I would have some at under 12s, but under 12s would really be about spacing, ball movement, decision making, all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the general rule. And you're probably going to have some teams that are better than others, but I think if you put the ball screen in straight away, you're never going to learn spacing. You know, you need to learn some spacing first, decision making, and then you can use it with the pick and roll. Alrighty.
Chaz? A clap.
Lotto gave me the clap. Do you want me to do your one?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so Chris and I have got containment and pressure defense. So to start with, the two sides about, I guess, you have to think about your own philosophy and how you want your teams to play. And there's nothing wrong in being a containment team or being a pressure team, because you can play both styles defensively. It comes down to, I guess, the skill level of your group. If you've got a quick athletic group, you want to play up the floor and pressure in the full court. If you've got a slower group and you just want to contain the ball versus an opposition that might have great penetrators, obviously containment is the kind of defense that you want to start with. So I've just broken down in some simple things about what is containment defense. Now, containment defense, number one, starts on the ball. So you've got to be able to still have ball pressure, and what is your kind of stance that you're in on the ball. So us with Opals, we play with our flat stance with our back to the basket. So that's our containment stance, or our stance on the ball it's player, you, basket, and our back is always to the ball. Then obviously things come in about scout, whether you want to send someone to their left hand or to their right hand, but that's our number one thing, is stay in between your player and have your back to the basket. Other teams, containment might be you want to push baseline or you want to push middle. Up to you. Nothing's wrong or right. It's how you want to coach your team and what emphasis you want to have. But I think the number one thing out of containment is what kind of ball stance you want to have on the ball. Have that gap and have that hand pressure, because containment's not just about standing this far off and daring someone to shoot it, because then they can just whip the ball and pass the ball around. So containment is still being able to have decent hand pressure on the ball so they can't move it so quickly so they get you in rotations or closeouts. So I think the number one thing is being able to have a great ball stance with good hand pressure. The next one is really important, and it's no matter whether you're in containment or whether you're in pressure defense, is closeouts. And it's a big thing with me, and I think from a WNBL perspective, but I watch a lot of junior stuff, and I've coached a lot of junior teams, that it's just something that I don't think has been emphasised enough, because our closing out, I think across the board from juniors to senior wise, and even some of our, it's pretty ordinary at times. So being able to go back and being able to contain one-on-one, then being able to close out to the ball. And whether that's a short closeout, whether I'm closing out short to give up a shot, or whether I'm closing out long to a shooter. So there's those two different types of closeouts. And, I think going back to square stance, where is our hand pressure? Where do we want to channel the ball? One of the things that I always use with the Capitals, I talk about punching the ball. So once we've closed out, I want to punch at the ball, so jab at it. So why? The defenders or the offense has got it, you punch at it, they'll obviously do this or do this. So right away, we've got to win defensively. They're not getting it on their front foot where they can pass and shoot and catch it. So my thing is once you've contained and you've got to the ball stance, punch or jab at the ball. It's like a boxer. Someone boxes you, you're going to go back. You're not going to put your head forward and get punched in the head. I use that term a lot with the girls. Don't get punched in the head. Be the first to be aggressive. So I think closing out is super important from a one-on-one perspective, from a team perspective, because you don't want, obviously, try and not have more than one closeout. Because more than one closeout, you're going to be in 3-4 rotations and you're going to give up threes or you're going to give up layups. So I think it is definitely a skill that I think if I went back to, and we do it with my WNBL group, we emphasise it with Opals, is about closing out is super important as far as goes back to ball stance. So footwork, technique, hand pressure, then where you want to send the ball. Okay.
Can I just add to that, Gori?
Yep.
A lot of when you sort of walk around and watch juniors play, and you all know what I'm saying, you see all the players standing like this. What Gori is talking about, you've got to get a hand on the ball. So you should be trying to teach no rhythm shots. So if you can force mid-range contested jump shots, that should be your goal as teachers of the game, especially to juniors. Okay, so taking away the 3-ball, containing the basketball, but hand pressure on the ball and making sure you've got great footwork to force contested mid-range jump shots. That should be always our goal as teachers of the game, in particular with girls. You'll just see them, they like this. Great, as they get older, the great shooters just shoot it straight over the top. All right, so just thought I'd add that.
So I think we go from obviously ball stance, starting on the ball, to closing out, because you're going to have to guard passing situations or screening situations. The next part then is off-ball positioning. Who's heard of, Pac Defense, where it's just literally you're playing in the driving lane or the passing lane, and all it is there's got to be between the ball, you, and your man. So you have to be obviously in flat triangles or shallow triangles away from the ball. And the other thing that I see, and I don't teach it a lot with the group that I coach, but it's still being active off the ball. And we talk about, Sandy talks about this thing a lot about stunting. Stunting is hedge and recover. So you can be in the pack stance whether I'm at the elbow, but I'm just standing here stuck on the spot. I'm not helping the person with the ball. So stunting is literally if the ball is driving through the middle or down a baseline, I'm going and I'm getting back. So that's what we term for Opals, stunting. So it's hedge and recover. So if someone's driving, I'm helping you, but I'm getting back to my own man, because your job is to stay in front of the ball in containment one-on-one defense. So Pac Defense is literally you're packing the keyway, you're trying to give up open shots or open threes. You're playing that against maybe a good driving team or a good 5-out team that wants to play a lot with the ball on the floor. Okay. With all of this, what underpins it is communication. I got ball, help left, help right, and we talk a little bit with Opals as well. It's not just the stunting on the drive or the pass, it's stunting the stunter. So if I'm off in the low help, it's probably easier if I draw it up here for you. So we talk about stunting the stunter. So if we're in a normal shell drill, say, situation, and the ball's here, and that's being guarded there, and then you're sitting in the nail and you're in 2-pass away defense, that as the ball floats to here and you're going to close out, well, I'm stunting the stunter, because she's going to stunt and get back. On the flight time of the ball, your job is to stunt and then get back. So there's not only just a stunt on the dribble, you can stunt on the pass, but it's not just the person closest to the ball that's stunting. So you stunt up towards the pass and then get back to your position, your pack position off the ball. So it's just that stunting, and whether the same thing would be on a drive here. So if this is the ball's here and the ball's coming to the middle, their job is to stunt and get back. Okay, so we're containing the driving lane. Same thing here. Drive goes down here. My job here would be to stunt and get back, because we're not helping from the ball side. And then we talk about, obviously, with Pac Defense, it's congesting the keyway. Yeah.
Does this apply for zone or just for man?
Zone as well. It depends. I guess zone is kind of like a pack defense. Depends on how aggressive you want to be. Like in your zone, obviously you can like trap corners out of the zone, but zone is more of I term zone as like it's more of a pack defense. You're playing in the passing lanes and in the shooting lanes, but just packing off, giving up like open shots. And I think I've got it like in the next slide before we go on, but I talk to my group too about what's the thing that you want to give up. Is obviously if you're going to be in pack defense, you're going to probably like give up open threes because you're packing in the keyway. That doesn't mean, and a lot of people think that pack defense is just like a soft defense where you can just be taking a holiday off the ball, and it should be still assertive. You can still have some assertive pressure out of your positioning on and off the ball, out of like your hand pressure, and that's a little bit personally why I don't go to pack defense, because I think it just becomes, with some of mine, a lazy kind of like defense. But that's not to say that it's wrong or right. I just find that people tend to just kind of like go, I'll just let the ball riff around. There's no accountability to it. There's still got to be accountability to it. So yeah, we're obviously like congesting the keyway, and we spoke about the communication.
So this is a big one for me. Communication is imperative defensively, not only on the ball but off the ball. What you need to teach the young kids in particular is to make sure that you try and get the offensive team to play quick. And the voice is just a great tool. If there's talk behind the ball, there's likely to be more pressure on the ball. There's going to be more activity off the ball. So I would be pushing that all the time, because I think the voice is a great tool. You know, I talk about, you know, not everybody can play offense, but everybody can play defense, just some are better than others. But if they've got a great voices within the team, you can get the opposition team to play quick and take poor shots and get the team to work on a string. And the voice and the communication with that can really play a big part. It's a really important factor that we need to teach, and it needs to be almost a training habit, that's a requirement from your group. Okay?
So disruption and pressure. So obviously it goes back to the very first part of whether it's containment or whether it's pressure, it's having good ball pressure. And I've got some clips after this to show. So disruption, you want to create pressure situations, whether it's you're down in time, whether it's a team that doesn't handle, like whether it be full court or half court pressure. So obviously your ball pressure has to be super important, and hand pressure is important. Same thing about where you want to like send the ball is about number one thing is you have to be up and in and have to apply pressure when your man catches it. Obviously, off the ball, you're more aggressive in your stunting. You might stunt a little bit harder and a little bit longer when you're in more aggressive situations in pressure or disruption defense, and your rotations are quicker and harder. You might rotate long rather than short because you're trying to run them off the three-point line, okay? In pick and roll situations, and some of you may not do this with junior teams at all, but if you're playing disruption pressure defense against pick and roll, obviously you can trap, which is really like aggressive, and then obviously you have to load up off the ball and be ready to rotate and get the next pass. We talk about hedge switch. So a switch is usually a switch where you're just going to switch and be like flat. So if there's a screen coming like here and they're coming off the screen and I'm just flat, that's kind of like a pack kind of like soft switch. When we talk about hedge switch, if they're coming off a pick and roll and I'm defending like the screener, my hedge switch might be out wide. So I'm trying to like send them back to where the ball came from. So it's a really aggressive switch. So I'm taking away them being able to like drive and turn the corner and get downhill out of that.
So one of the teaching points that I do with the hedge switching is to get their foot out to level with the ball. So you don't want to create a driving lane. So if I switch out, you don't want to open up too much and someone split through the middle. But as Paul said, you want to send the ball back to where it came from.
Yeah, so if that's a screener there and I'm coming off in a pick and roll, Chris's feet are outside the screener.
My heel level with the ball. Don't want to open here, great guards will go through the middle, but an angle, but hedge and get my foot outside the ball, okay, and almost send him back to where the ball came from, okay, and that's an aggressive hedge switch. And we have our post players, they switch flat, great guards will just drive downhill and take the outside leg, yep.
So,
say for example, like you have that screener right there, and you did the head switch, and the screener comes back and comes at you.
Switch back.
Head switch back.
switch back.
Absolutely.
Yep. Head switch back. Yep.
That's aggressive, and that flows through the group too. So that sort of activity on the ball, we should have great talk behind the ball, and that flows through the group. Yep.
And obviously, with that, obviously it's usually in pick and roll is a guard and a big, so it's then prepared to be, well, if you're going to switch a guard onto a big, you then left with a little on a big rolling down, so then it's, you've got to teach then the guards actually rolling and getting under the big to not let them roll down again. So you've kind of got to live with something, and that's to this point what are you prepared to give up? Are you prepared to give up in a hedge switch or a trap, somebody slipping and making their next pass, or are you prepared to give up a big rolling on your guard and having a post-up situation? There's going to be risk for reward in either way you go, but as Chris said, you've got to do it aggressively and assertively, because that's what disruption and pressure defense is about. So there's got to be pressure on the ball. And hard show is the exact same footwork. You're hard showing out, but then you're getting back to your own. You're not staying and switching. You're getting back to your own on the hard show. And I've got some clips on the trapping stuff. Obviously in disruption and pressure defense, and the same as containment defense, whether you do it in the half or full court, so you can pressure in the full court, you can have pressure defense in the half court. You can also have, whether it's man-to-man pressure, whether it's zone presses that you can use. There's all different types of man-to-man or zone presses you can have, whether it's a half-court press, a three-quarter court, a full-court press, whether it's man-to-man. So there's lots of different things that you can play around with. And, deciding, in a game, is, are you going to do it off a free throw? Are you going to press or trap, or how are you going to play off a free throw, whether it's a full-court, half-court, three-quarter court? Are you going to do it after a timeout? Can you do it after a made field goal, which has to be conditioned very well? If you go score a basket and your team's getting into a zone press straight away, it's probably easier to go man-to-man. But giving those thoughts to about how you implement those things, because I am sure there's no team in the world that can probably zone press or man-to-man press for 40 minutes of the game that other than going to be in super shape. Okay, and you'd have to be really switched on. So I think that having a think about where that fits with your group and when's the best time to put it in. It might be you've got to change the tempo of the game, you've got to change disruption of the game. And then do you want to talk about conversion?
Yeah, this is a big one for me. I think teaching, and I've got, pity we weren't on the floor, because I've got a great drill that I use all the time and have done for years. Teaching our players to have great conversion from O to D and D to O. Open layup, bang, straight back into D. That teaching point is really important. We want to make sure we're playing quick offensively in the first 6 seconds, but defensively on made baskets, we want to convert into defense really aggressively. Okay, so it's almost a split second, O to D, D to O, but make sure it's quick, effective, and sharp. Okay, it's a really important part of our style for Australia as well. Okay, that ability to teach that. Now I have got a drill. I'm happy to go through it. I could have to.
Oh, come on, Chris.
So you need a minimum of 12 players. Okay, because that's the minimum you want. So it's 2 teams, but it's 3 on 3. So you've got 6 versus 6, but you want them in groups of 3. So I'll set it up if there's any questions. So we're going to probably implement this tomorrow, just to try and get our D-trans a little bit more aggressive. If there's any questions as I go through, I'm happy to go through that with you. So we'll go here. Okay, so this is a team here sitting on the baseline, and we've got another team sitting here. Now I use this drill probably 3 times. I'm probably in the way, everybody, am I? Is that better? Yep. I use this drill probably 3 times a week. I usually run it for 7 minutes on the clock and go by single baskets. So first team to 7, okay, or highest score in 7 minutes. Okay, now if it's 6-6, okay, you've still got time in the 7 minutes, it's win by 2. So you want this to be really aggressive, but this does teach from juniors right through to seniors conversion, aggressive conversion defensively. So they're attacking here, this basket. As they attack and play 3 on 3 here, if there's a made basket, the same as a game, defense it through the net, You pass the ball to the baseline. This line, so you're playing O, this team here, and then it's converting back into defence straight away. And then same thing at the other end. Okay, now a couple of key points. If you get a defensive rebound, you want to teach rebound, chin it, and now you're looking for the outlets, teaching the players to outlet the ball and attack at the other end. This team here has to get the ball locked up. So if they're converting, if there's a pitch out here, you know, we want to make sure we're locking that ball down quickly, okay, getting plugging position and talking and playing 3-on-3 back the other way. Okay, now what I do is, as coaches call, otherwise it becomes a debate with players. If the team gets a fast break uncontested because they are able to get the ball in quick, you can't have this team possession first before they go, otherwise the drill will break down. If they get a layup, okay, uncontested, they'll get the ball back here, 3-on-3. Does that make any sense to anybody? Now, it's just something I've sort of grown. I use it in Victoria. It's different names, but I just call it a defensive conversion drill. Okay, but you really want to get after your players. If they make a shot, their conversion back into against this group here needs to be spot on. Otherwise, you're going to give up a layup at the other end. Is that clear enough, Paul?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that clear enough or not? Does everybody understand? So you just continue the same drill. So this offensive team becomes defense, and this down this way. This team here that come down and attack this basket now is defensive conversion back the other way. So it's up and back and out. You put them into groups of 3, so it's 6 versus 6. And I just reckon it's one of my favourite drills. Yep?
Just with the offensive team, if they don't score and defence gets it, then what happens?
Say that again.
So the offensive team?
Yes, they score.
They don't score.
They don't score.
So defence gets a stop?
Yes.
Then what happens?
They get a defensive stop, defensive rebound. That's the cue for this 3 to outlet, and that team that was defending are out.
Okay. So they outlet to the team?
Yeah, and then attack the basket at the other end. And you'll find it's a great fast break drill, but the key to this drill is the defensive conversion and locking the ball down. Guards can play, we want to make sure there's pressure on the ball, Paul's talking about here, and make sure we get the ball under control and we get people back behind the ball. Okay, it comes back to the middle, we're plugging here. Okay, so it's conversion. Yep.
We ever tried a 2-on-2? So I know a lot of teams won't have 12.
Yeah, you can, but it's not as effective. Yeah, you can, absolutely. The other thing you can do too, if you end up with 16 kids, you've got your first and second team, you can go 4-on-4, but it does get a little bit messy.
That's 3 possessions as well. If you have 9, you go 3 possessions, 3 teams.
Yeah, you can. That's just a different drill. Yeah. The other teaching point is what on the back of what Cheryl's saying is, if you've got, and I'm really big with this, especially juniors with pressure, they'll dribble the ball to the sideline. What I teach is, if you get a possession, you can't kick the ball ahead. Get the girls to hit the corner, or boys, but attack the elbow at the other end of the floor. That should be their target point. Absolutely fly on the dribble and stretch the floor and create space. Okay, so that should be another offensive teaching point. Okay, and ball movement against your 3-on-3. And you can go, on ball screens, you can go away screens, it doesn't matter. Just let the kids play. All right, is that all right? Is there any questions on that? Because I sort of rushed through that. But it's 6 versus 6 is probably my favourite drill there. Yep.
How do you girls go conditioning-wise in 7 minutes like compared to well?
Say that again.
How do you WNBL girls go conditioning-wise in say 7 minutes? So you drill 7 minutes. How would an under 14 girls team go in 7 minutes?
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think
They'd be very tired.
I think it is a great conditioning drill. Yeah. But if you're going to be an aggressive defensive team, this helps your offense. You want to be. The reward is you get a stop. You're outletting to your team because it's 6 versus 6, and you're attacking at the other end. The reward is if you get a layup, you get the ball back, extra possession. Okay, so I have run it for 5 minutes, but I find that 7's great for game conditioning as well.
To answer your question too, is like I've seen it done with Ian Stacker, who coached the Crocs under 23s, and with his NBL team when they were with like the Townsville Crocs, and it was exactly the same sort of principles as Chris, but with like less numbers, and it was more, I guess, 3/4 court, and they would go 0-0-0 D, and they'd have a coach step on the baseline. So regardless whether it was made or miss, they had to inbound the ball to the coach, and then it'd be changed possession, and then go back 3/4 court, and there'd be another. So he had like 9. So he had always like just teams of like 3. So you could do it full court, but he just had a next group like waiting 3/4 court. And what they were practicing on, pretty similar to Chris, is when they had to throw the ball to the coach, someone had to come and inbound, and then they'd obviously want to pressure the guards, pressure the inbound. You can come back and trap the first pass. So it was more a defensive drill, how you can do it 3-on-3 just with the backcourt trapping and pressure.
All right, so I'm happy to go through mine after the session. We're running out a bit of time, but happy to go through a bit more detail if you want that. But there's so many, I think, in whether it's that drill or this drill here, there's some teaching principles in there, offensively, defensively, chinning the rebound, looking for the spin, pivot, looking for the outlet. But the key is to make sure this line does not go until you've got possession. Off a score, they just pass it here and away they go. Okay, off a defensive rebound, chinning it, looking for the outlet, okay? And having your guards being attacking in the open court, kick ahead passes whenever you can. Alrighty? Thanks, Bob. Yep.
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask, I coach under 11, so really basic learning basketball.
Yes.
And I want to try and get them to start thinking about changing between offense and defense.
Yep.
What's a simple drill to...
That one. Just run it slowly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you could run it 2-on-2 and build it up.
Right.
Yep. That
Even
drill,
just doing like 2-on-1, 3-on-2, even 2-on-2 full court, 3-on-3 full court, where it's just conversion from like offense to defense, even if it's only for like 2 minutes, where they've got to have the because I think it's both conversion, offense to defense, then defense to offense. Right. Because if you want to be like Cheryl's, like the spacing, like running team, it's how quickly you can convert from like one to the other, how quickly you inbound the ball after a made basket, or how quickly after a turnover you can get a kick ahead and like run. So anything, and Cheryl coaches her daughter's group, so she's probably got more idea than what I've got about. But I'd say 2-on-2, 3-on-3, where they have to continually just play for 2 or 3 minutes, but it's that conversion.
Yeah, I think rather than going for minutes with those under 11s, because as you get older, it's easier to go up and back and keep going. But I would just go up and then back and then stop, and allow their brains to figure out what they're doing again. Otherwise, you'll go up and down, and they'll run up and down, and they'll have forgotten. They need it really simple instructions, and really just up, back, figure it out, change it over, try again, and just repeat it until they do get it. You'll have to be patient. Under 11s, you need some patience, God bless you. But you just need to make it as simple as you can for them and as slow as you can, and then once their brains are ready for it, then you can speed it up and go for time limits.
Yeah.
With the mentality aspect,
yeah.
How do you talk to sort of like your main scoring options in the team? How do you, when they miss a shot, how do you talk to them about not going like, oh?
I think like that's the biggest thing, like I was going to say on that point, is like conversion from offense to defense is also about this whole thing about, I missed a shot, is like, I turned it over, and that thing, and it's bad, but it's got to be old school penalty. I think it's just going to be you don't have time to sulk about a turnover, a missed shot. It's thinking about what's my next, and this is like come from way back when I was with the AIS with Marty Clark. He's like, what's your next job? You might have like made the shot, missed the shot, turned it all over. What's your next job? If it's like to get on the ball, if it's to get back in safety, you always have another job to do. So you can't cry over a turnover, a missed shot, or like a made shot, or be celebrating your made shot and then they run a layup down the like the other end. Always constantly think about what Chris spoke about, conversion in around changing of possessions like quickly, and that's where you kind of like get it in those kind of drills. 2-on-1, 3-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, where it is there's no time, because eventually you get caught out if someone's lagging behind with their head up their backside because they're worried about the turnover like that they made.
I think being also consistent with your words. Okay, so just be yourselves, but next play mentality. Just they start whinging that they missed a shot, or next play, come on, let's go. So you get rid of that. So they concentrate on that conversion of dropping that and getting to the next thing. Exactly what Paul's saying. Okay, so next play mentality is I think a good teaching words.
So this is sort of like obviously most of the time it's really almost dead ball like. How do you simulate live ball sort of transmitting? Obviously here, like even when it's secure rebound, then other guys break out. How do you open some of the drills you do where it's more dynamic, more live, more
say off a breakaway layup I think these types of drills will help with that, but making sure you get ball pressure. Okay, pressure, disruption on the ball without giving up containment, just keep it under control. The person's inbound, make sure there's a plugger so no one's getting broken down. So teaching defensive transition is part of what we're talking about here. So you can actually do it off dead balls, live. Okay, you can teach it. You can get one team perhaps to just dribble in, make a layup, and then convert one way. Teach it that way. Okay, you get the ball 1/3, 2/3 down the strong side of the floor. Get plugging position, making sure off ball that we've got coverage for high split, low split on that. So you can teach that one way, stop, go there, a bit like Cheryl's saying with the younger kids, make sure you stop it, let them process it and then go again.
And I think defensive transition is one of the hardest things to coach, because I've racked my brain over how many drills you do the defensive transition and still doesn't sink in, because it's a moving beast though too. You might say, well, you've always got to be in safety. Well, what happens if you're the person that's made the layup? Then you're out. So there's a lot of moving parts to defensive transition, and I still haven't found a drill or come up with a drill that replicates live play that just is like chaos at times, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's why just having the conversion, being able to sprint, get back, protect your basket, or get on the ball is super important. Being able to do it where it's very random, because you don't know who's going to get the shot every possession or where the shot's going to come from. Or the other thing is turnovers.
You guys say it's not mentality, right?
You can't. Yeah. And obviously defensive transition is hard if you turn the ball over. So that's why you coach the offense to get the best shot every possession, so then it helps with your defensive transition. But it's always about next play. What's your next job?
Who coaches girls? How hard is that for junior level? They talk their butts off the court. As soon as they come on, they've just lost their voices. It's silent, and it's hard. It takes a lot of energy to get them going. It does take a lot of energy to teach communication, which seems crazy given that they can talk off the court, but
So I would say, just in summary, before I get onto the video, is whether it's containment or ball disruption defense, is ball and hand pressure is number one. Second thing is, I would implore you to teach and coach closeouts, whether it's 2-on-2, 3-on-3, is the footwork, how you want to close out, whether it's long, short, but keeping your player in front is important. And then obviously rotations on and off the ball, whether that's rotations, whether that's stunting in your positioning off the ball is important, whether you're in pack or pressure defense. So I think those would be my main things: is get your on-ball stance right, get your closing out good, get your positioning off the ball, and then obviously the end of it, which all players are bad at, you might have a better team, but boxing out. Finish possessions with a box out and getting possession of the ball. And it's a hard one too, because we spoke about whether we do boxing out drills with the Opals even. It's a thing that you've just got to, and it's what you prioritise too. You can't keep, and I say to coaches too, they say, we want to be like a running team and we want to be a transition offense team. Well, if you don't actually practice 5-on-0 or you don't do transition drills, well, how are you going to be a running team? If you can't say, well, box out, if you actually haven't held them accountable and done box out drills, as boring as they might be. But we as coaches can't stand on the sideline and go box out, box out, box out if we haven't taught them how to box out and held them accountable for it. So I think that's the other thing, is ending possessions at both ends. All right, I will get onto the video. So I was fortunate enough, this is from mid last year. Lono, I don't know when we did this. Mid last year, because I'm in a tracksuit, so I must have been cold.
Back end of the year, COVID safe, Paul.
COVID safe, yes. Christian Veal asked me to come and do, and I know Lono did a session on just some ball pressure, how to build up ball pressure, trapping, kind of like that whole thing about how do you actually build up pressure and trapping situations. So this is how I went back and kind of like started right from like the very beginning about, and you'll see it and you can like roll it, Cheryl, please, about just having like one-on-one. And you can see straight away, it was, can you just stop it there, Shez, for a minute? It was, when I reflected back and going through the session on, it was really bad offensively because the offensive players weren't used to being strong with the ball, couldn't make passes, turned it over. So it was a highlight for me about, well, if we teach pressure defense first, our offense is going to get better because they're going to get stronger with the ball. They're going to get their ball on their front foot. They're going to protect it. They're not going to turn it over. And when you saw like the first clip here is Tola just like slaps it out of her hands because she's like just standing there like with it. So it's teaching them about to have great ball pressure, obviously your hand and keeping an appropriate gap, but getting what I talk about, punch or jab at the ball. Try and see if you can get the offensive player to either put it on their hip where they can't shoot or drive it or pass it, or make them come back onto their front foot. And so like right here, trying to get a hand on the ball, we want to straddle their lead foot if they give us a jab foot. So it's just mirroring the ball and having great pressure without fouling, obviously. So we just did this where it was just one-on-one, 5 pivots. So I just like you got to pivot 5 times, move the ball, and then it's just try and get a hand on the ball. Up and in if they bring it above their head, and then gap, obviously, if they bring it down into a driving stance. And now on the second part, so the first part was move it 5 pivots, just ball pressure and hand pressure. The second part then was when you hand it off, at any time you can take 1 dribble. So what are we trying to do now? We want to pressure the ball, but as soon as they get it down to their driving pocket, we've got to gap and be able to slide and stay in front of the ball. Okay, because it's important, we don't want to create offense. So the next part of it was pressure at any time. The offense could take 1 dribble, pick it up, and we got a dead ball situation again. So it's just getting used to having pressure on the ball and then being able to stay down and slide and then stick the ball. Now we went to 2-on-2, so building it up from 1-on-1 to 2-on-2 to trapping the first pass. So right here straight away is we got a steal and deflection because the offense is being like soft with the ball. So on flight time we're in a pack open stance here. Flight time of the ball, that was like turnover. Flight time of the ball, we've already got a deflection and a steal, and now we're trying to like trap the ball on the first pass. So we just play that 2-on-2. So pressure the ball, throw it to the wing, and obviously with all of this stuff, can you just go back a clip, please, Shez, if that's all right. Obviously here on the catches, their stance is important. So as they're going to like get it, their stance is important, like on the ball going over here. So as Polly goes, she's going to the place where Jade would dribble the ball. So if you come too high here, good players are just going to split it. So you're going to the trap in where they're going to take that first dribble. And straight away, Alana's done a good job here of pressuring the ball where Jade's caught it and she's already like on a back foot. So now we've taken away the pressure where she can't pass it, she can't shoot it, and she can't drive it here. So the angle and the ball pressure, Alana's got a great hand in there. Polly's coming to a great situation where she's trapping in that driving lane. And so we just played that then 2-on-2. So good ball pressure, back foot, good trap, and then turns it like over because she's got it up on her back foot again. So here, coach talking too much, just like on flight time about getting to, if you know the trap is coming here, you've got to play with your flat stance with our back to the basket, but also then we've got to change our stance to allow the trap to come so they don't split it. So once again, talking about foot position and footwork as you go into trap. So you might be playing flat stance on the catch, but as soon as you know that the trap's coming, you have to change your stance so you're pushing the ball towards the trap. And so you just get your players to play that 2-on-2. You can just whip through that shit if you want. So here, good ball pressure, throw it, go trap it hard, got it on a back pivot foot, but we let it split the trap because we're coming up out of our stance. So now going 3-on-3, so the same thing on the flight time, go trap it, and now we're talking about off-ball positioning. So right now, Tolo's got to play two. So she's got to play Charlie here, and she's got to play Kelsey over here. So if we're getting a good trap, Tolo can be either one or two things. She can sit in the space to be an interceptor to try and steal this, or she can just slow down ball reversal. And this is super important because we're coming out of a trap. Tolo's angle out here is denying and jumping out to slow down ball reversal. So we want to change the ball to go back to where it came from. So Tolo come up with a hand to the outside here to send the ball back to buy time for rotation. Same thing, rotate, and then we get like a second trap if we can, obviously, and Polly becomes the interceptor. So here, good ball pressure, trap it, steal already in deflection. So you can just see how poor the offense is in taking care of the ball. So here, good trap, good interceptor, could have gone and got that. Tolo's sprinting out. Good trap again. We backpedal, and then I would say, can you just stop it there, Shez? I would say is like in a perfect world, if they start backpedaling, you'd get out of there straight away. You wouldn't stay in the trap for too long. So our usually key points is she takes one dribble back out of there. You don't want to cause like long rotations. You'd rotate out of that trap a little bit quicker, but a really good job in pressuring the ball and making the ball go back to halfway rather than attacking to the basket. If anyone's got any questions, just stop and we can yell out and answer them now or later. So Jade does a good job. Obviously, can you just go back there, Shez? Sorry. So here we trap it. Jade's the interceptor here. So does a good job because she's like quick. Here, she could get a piece of that if she wanted to, but then she changes it, see that outside hand, and then she jumps here to the outside, slowing down ball reversal, allowing, oh no, is that Kelsey? Allowing Kelsey Reese, if that's her, time to get there on the catch. So Jay just getting a hand, get a deflection. If in doubt, like Kelsey, kick the ball. At least I get it from the sideline. So here again, trap. Now hold there, Shez, sorry, back. This is it still overrules normal rules. Closest person guards the ball. Charlie's here, like Tolo's eyes are up, and this is another key point that I use in traps or ball screens. If their eyes are down, as a defender, get your hands down because they're like looking to pass or they're looking at the floor. If their eyes are up, then get your hands up. So here, Jade, hand is okay, but it could be up in that passing lane a little bit more. But right now, Tolo's out of the trap here. Now, flight time of the ball, who's quicker to it now? Who's closest? Charlie or Kelsey? So Charlie should be now, that's not her player any longer. It's her responsibility because she's in front and can see it. She should be going to closeout. And it's the same thing on the closeouts is, do you want to keep it in front? Do you want to force it middle? Do you want to force it baseline? That's where I say closeouts are super important if you're going to be in pressure kind of defensive situations. So then we moved on to then 4-on-4. So trapping the first pass, so you can do this out of shell drill. So once again, positioning off the ball is important. They get this. We've got a person up high guarding two, and then Lauren's guarding these two, Alana's guarding these two. So same thing, she can go steal this, pressure it, and then we've got to get a rotation out. So on the rotation, Alana's got to get that. The person who's out of there, Lauren may need to stunt to buy time for then Polly to get back, whether it's high or whether it's low. So going back to Chris's point, communication is really important in rotations and trappings about who's rotating and who's staying. Coach is talking way too much, doing lots of pointing. Can you just rip through it, Shez? Please. It is on fast. We're way too much talk. I like finger pointing, obviously, because I can't move. Had lots to say. So can you just go back there? That's all right. So here now, 4-on-4 out of shell. So we go get it. We're an interceptor. Good trap here. She's going sideline. Good trap to the middle. There, now it's like come out of there. So now here, Lauren does a good job of like stunting, but she can stunt and get back. Or we've got to go rotate like fully out to the corner. So here again, trap. Katie Deeble does an excellent job. See on this one, she comes like high and slows down reversal. Can you just take that one back, Cheryl, if that's all right? So the trap was good over here. And then Katie Deeble, because she's a quick guard, comes up, so the ball comes out. She does a good job of flying to the outside. Here, throws up a hand to slow it down. Keeps the ball going back. That allows Jade time now to sprint. Charlie's doing a really good job guarding too. All right, their offensive spacing, Cheryl, is terrible. Yes. And so here, Charlie, good stunt. So yeah, we're right to go. Stunt, gets the ball, allows Jade time to come out, slows down ball reversal, good hedge switch here, stays in plays, good job fighting the post because she's mismatched, front it and go. So here on this, see how Tolo's angle is too high, so you want to be trapping where the actual person may dribble it, sorry.
What sort of vocab do you teach them? Like when you're going through all the rotations and reads and whatnot, like what sort of the words you use for them to use?
Well, you can use like off this, high, low, nail, help side. When you're in the trap, the most important communication is when you're telling the player to go. So if you're in the trap and they start to dribble backwards, if I've got the ball, I'm telling the low person. So if Tolo went to trap here and she takes a dribble back, then I'd say, Alana, go. So she's like out of there. And then you can buy time and like load up here. But for some, you know, whether it's a nail or you want to call high and you want to call low, and then obviously with me, I usually call stay or go. I have the vocab of stay with the ball, or go means like go, get out, like rotate. Just because it means stay, go, get out of there makes more sense. It's more movement-based situation.
What are the actual defensive players saying to each other? So are they calling the trap? Are they?
Yeah. If we could put, I don't know, we could put the sound on it because, like, yeah, they're calling like trap. They should be calling like high and low. So if we've got the sound, like, because they were talking, because that was part of it. And talking and going back to like Cheryl's point about girls being quiet. If you saw the very start of it, when I first started practice, I made them yell 3 times to get used to being aggressive and assertive. So they just had to like yell whatever they wanted to yell, so they felt comfortable. They thought it was all stupid and like funny, but it was more about, so if you're going to trap, be aggressive and call trap. If you're going to be in those positions off the ball, call it out. So
I suppose what I'm trying to say, in a game situation, you decide they've got to know what you're going for here. So what are they saying to each other? I mean, you calling from the sideline, though, as a coach, or are you just going to let?
No, yeah, so they'd be talking to themselves. So these ones would be going like, as soon as say she'd rotate out, Polly's situations of Lauren was like up here, Polly would be saying, rotate high, rotate low, go low, or I got high. Yeah. So is there?
They'd yell the trap.
Yeah. Is there? I don't know. Is there? That's all right. I don't know.
We can't get the sound.
That's all right.
I just mean they're not going to do it all the time, so they've got to actually know when each when they see the opportunity.
Yeah. No, it's not going. Yeah. If you saw the talk was really good in this. So if we had it with the actual sound on, when I went back and like watched this, the talk was really good. And Tolo's really good because she's a senior player and understands the game and like reads the game like pretty well. So now off it that we went to, obviously trapping off a pass to trapping pick and roll. So it's the same situation about what Chris spoke about with footwork and about guarding off the ball. So if we go into a trap here, so we trap here, then obviously then Low help has got to rotate if like they pop. So she'd be calling, right now she'd be calling rotate. And then Jade's obviously got to sprint out. So anytime there was in a trap where they pick and pop or slip the screen, the low help had to say go, which meant rotate out and go. You can go through it quicker, Shiz, if you want till the start. I wish we had sound because there was like the teaching points and stuff in it, but so here we go back, yep. So we trap here, ball's in the trap, Jade's low, so she sees it, so she goes quick, and she's quick and understands the game really well. So now here, Ruby's got to guard this. You can see her now pointing, you've got like that. So she's pointing, Jade, you got that. Ruby, corner, and then you see Ruby talk and point. And that's the other thing too, it can be talking, but also like pointing to somebody as they're running back, because they may not hear is important too. So there's a communication part, but also finger pointing is good. So here, trap, now picked it up early, good stunt, got her early outside the keyway. Now we've got to guard 2 here. Shouldn't really turn and like watch the ball, should be more of a flat stance. But Jade's got jets, so she gets there in time. Reasonable hand on the closeout, and we finish with the box out. So here again, trap. Polly goes, she's pointing to go out high. Millie does a great job here. Alana contains it. Let's see. So you can hear a little bit of the talk there. And see here, like they just stayed in the play and read the play. So Alana did a good job of like just staying at home, waiting for like the rotation to come down. So good trap, Tolo slips it. We got the guard coming out. Good ball pressure, slow down ball reversal. Another trap again, gets a low help on the steal. And I think the more aggressive with it, it builds confidence. So really hard aggressive with low help rotate. Good closeout. We rotate again down to the post, throw it out of bounds. So it's just that constant thing of building pressure through great ball pressure. We trap off the ball screen, we rotate out, we're all matched up again. Thing about don't overhelp from obviously the ball side corner. So there's all good teaching points. So now what we did is then put it into, I guess, a full court situation, so you can do it in obviously the quarter court or in the half court. And now how do you build up either running and jumping and trapping or pressure defense, obviously like off a made basket. So all you do is just extend it and go 4-on-4 shell in the extended court, where if you've got 2 guards up here, you might want to run and jump. If it's like a big like Tolo, you may want to go and trap, and then we've got stealers and interceptors coming up the lane. Great. Better close out by keeping it in front, but you just extend it up the floor. So pass it in. These 2 have to be up. We jump, run and jump. Jade hedges. So here, good. All right, so that's the end of that before we, So any questions on any of that? So that's just, I guess, the teaching points of how you might build up into, I guess, pressure defense. No. So all I've got is, before I hand over like to Chris, we've got some clips of us playing China and just our containment defense, and then when it flips, there'll be China's pressure defense. So Katie Ebsbury, great job of just containing. Darcy containing in here, contested shot. So this is all of like our containment defense. Good containment with hand pressure, we get through. We're loaded up off the ball. Good stunt by Darcy. We wanted to keep her to be a 3-point shooter. So Beck getting through. Good positioning off the ball. Ezzy, good containment. Bish containing. And we're just keeping them in front of us. So there's nothing about any pressure. It's just about keeping the ball in front and having good hand pressure.
And box out.
And box out, yes. I should have shut all these clips before the box out. So Katie, good hand pressure, good containment. Beck could be in a better stance. Jenna, good stunt at the top. Good help inside here. Late switch. Kayla just keeps it in front and contests the shot. China wanted to keep the ball out of our point guard's hands and out of our wing's hands, so they make the 4-man bring it up. And this is where, they want to make, and this is what sometimes pressure defense does. It causes you to play quick offensively. So here we go handoff, they trap it, they're denying, they're up and in, and they get called for a foul. Here, it becomes a wrestle through their pressure. Kayla falls down, they all run at it because they're trying to build pressure through hard closeouts, hard rotations. So here again, like they're denying, forces to back cut, they're denying that hard pass. And you can see how bad it makes us offensively. So and that's what I said about the COE girls practice. It made me think about the offense needs to be so much better when you're practicing against pressure. So here they make the 5-man bring it up. They're really aggressive here. Really aggressive hedge switch. Over it, hand pressure, chase hard. All come at it, all rotate again. And, whether you think it's right or wrong, they rotate. When you see that, China rotate really hard. They just send bodies, one, to either make you make a rush shot or throw the next pass, and you'll have to pass it eventually and take a bad shot. So there are, I guess there's advantages and disadvantages how you want your teams to play. But as I said, there's going to be risk for reward if you're going to go down the thing of trapping, pressing defense, because eventually you might get some layups scored on you. But it's how you want to coach it and what you want your teams, how you want them to play. Any questions?
You send that trap out, that third person that comes across, they're not in denial in yours?
Yep.
Do you want them just to play off and let them make that easy pass? Or?
Yeah. Unless they can flat out, they know that they're going to steal it, you just want to contain it. Then they can come up around that other slide and slow down ball reversal to be able to allow rotation. And it depends on personnel too. Like someone like Jade or the guards who can fly out there and probably maybe get a steal, yes. But if it was someone like Lauren or the bigger players or a Tolo, you probably don't want them trying to go and steal the ball, because then you're just creating more offense.
Just back to the start of your preso, the closeout stuff and how important it is. Do you have a couple of key pointers that you teach when you're teaching closeouts, and maybe your favourite drill?
Favourite drill? I think drill's just where it's 1-on-1, 2-on-2. So obviously going back to the point of stepping with your right, the correct foot. So if I'm in help stance and the ball goes, not crossing over and going, obviously it's quickest step and then go. Obviously hands up to get to the shot first, so it's step in the right direction, hands up, and the same thing is where you want to send the ball. So you want to get it to a closed stance. So I'm taking away the shot, and then I'm creating a decent gap on it, and then I'm trying to jab and punch at the ball. So literally some drills, and it's all the things that I'm sure everyone has done, and we do it with the Opals as well, of just having defense, offense, thank you, out the wing, and just the coach throwing the ball, close out, get to a good stance, get in here, skip it, close out, play. I think it's just the regular one. Then even being able to do it where you might skip the ball to the corner. I do a lot with my caps group where we just go 4-on-4 shell and skip the ball randomly. And then when I blow the whistle or when I say live, then they play live, because I'm just kind of I'm not going to let them out of the drill and play live until I think there's appropriate hand pressure, ball pressure, and they've got their closeouts right. So there's lots, I guess there's 2-on-1, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. But I think the more that you do it as a team is better, where there's accountability, 1-on-1 to contain your player. And I kind of had, going back when I coached Gems with D, and we played in a pre-World game against Spain, who just want to drive and kick and drive and kick and drive and kick and get you into rotations. We just had a rule that if you got beaten, you stayed with your own player and we weren't going to rotate. And for us, it kind of was the making of our group, because it put responsibility and accountability on each person to be really good at their closeouts and not to have rely on help, because you see your players kind of get beaten, they're just pointing at somebody else to help you out, or they're going, oh, why didn't you help me, Cheryl? Like, why didn't, yeah, it's not mine. So we just kind of like went for the rest of it, and the girls bought into it, and then from that point on we were kind of like, yes, you need to be in the right position, but there's going to be no rotation. If you get beaten, you have to stay with your own and try and stay in the play and get back. And I think if you kind of like go down that way of not relying on always, yeah, you've got to have help there because it's good team defense, but not just relying all the time about, well, where's my help, where's that? It's like, why didn't you? It's like, well, no, you get your ass down and keep the ball in front of you. And if you get beaten, your job is to try and stay in the play.
Yeah, I think on the initial point, making sure you're teaching the correct footwork, and make sure it's big to bigger on their movements, not big to small and then try and go big because you're going to get beat on the penetration. So teaching that, staying nose and chest, staying in stance, we talked about early. The other thing too, going back to the video that Paul showed with the one-on-one pressure defence, and then it went to one dribble. Good way to do that is actually just put all your players one-on-one right around the three-point line. And that way you can teach it on the, have everybody involved, and you get your assistants to help you with that. Then bring in one dribble, okay? And the footwork is really important. When Paul was talking about the trapping stuff, the amount of times when they went to trap the pick and roll, and the ball went to the post, and they rotated from the low split, the post player caught it here. Well, players should have been jamming up, the same as they were in that first drill. It's the same principle, okay? And cause panic. They bring it down, you back over the ball. All right, so I think footwork is super important. Yep. Yeah, so just, we've got I hope, we just talked about it yesterday, whether we'd throw it in. When we, probably one of the most enjoyable experiences I've ever been on personally, and with Cheryl and Goz, we went to, I'll just give you a bit of background before we watch it and see if we can get the music on it as well. I did a defensive highlight, because we had team buy-in, we had great preparation, we had a lot of games, and that's going to be a big challenge leading into Tokyo, because our preparation is limited. We're not going to be able to get a lot of games through Europe or Asia, whatever, getting teams out here. And one of the things we had, and it was interesting that Paul just showed, that was Australia v China in Canberra. That game, I remember very clearly. We lost the game. We lost to China for the first time in years. We gave up, they were ready to go. We gave up 24 offensive rebounds, and that set us up for the tournament. We then went into our preparation through Turkey. Where else did we go? Spain. We had games somewhere else. France, that's right. And we had a lot of preparation with games and time together. So we've got a big challenge going forward. When you watch the film, it is 6 minutes long, and I think it's a good way to, yes, this is a senior level, but if you can start teaching the kids right at a younger age, they've got great training habits. But everything we've talked about tonight will tie into the video. Okay, it's not perfect. Nothing is. But communication can fix a lot of problems within the group. But what we had with this group, we had injuries leading in. Mitchell dropped out, I think. Lay, then Lauren Mansfield got an injury in Turkey. We had to fly Levy in. So we had a lot of adversity, but defensively we had buy-in. This is the highlights from the quarterfinal versus China, semi-final versus Spain, which is pretty memorable, wasn't it? Great game. Lizzie upsetting the crowd, getting into them, which was pretty interesting. And then the gold medal game against USA, which we didn't win, we got silver. But the first half, we did fairly well defensively, but we just couldn't score. We just weren't making baskets. We spent a lot of energy in the Spain game, I would suggest. So I think it's a good way to finish, but we did play China in Canberra before we went overseas to prepare, and that game stuck in my mind that really helped our preparation, okay, because very rarely I thought we had games where we gave up a lot of offensive rebounds because it finished plays. You could play defence for 23 seconds and give up an O board, and all of a sudden you've got to play D. It's exhausting. All right, so I don't think we do it well in Australia, particularly with women and girls. teaching them to finish plays, creating great rebounders within our game, defensively and offensively. All right? Is there any questions on that before we have a look at it? If it's too long, we can stop it, but it's pretty good. During games, big games, you have moments. We call them moments. And there was a moment about 2 minutes to go, minute 45 to go. We had a great defensive play, and we ended up getting an offensive rebound ourselves, and then we made a big basket in front of the bench. That was a key moment in our tournament to get us through to the gold medal game, which is right at the end of the film. So hope you enjoy it, and our players have seen this, but I had it on my computer. I thought so about a minute before this spot in this game now was the key moment, which you'll see a little bit later on. But everything was contested. So that's the challenge for Tokyo, the USA team. It was really interesting. It took us to probably the middle of the second quarter to get ourselves going. The the way we'd been playing all tournament. A trap from the high split, aggressive, congestion, charge. A great switch. You see we're finishing plays, it's a real key. Here's a key moment, defensively. Okay, I think we give up. Desperate there. So offensive rebound, possession. And we sort of controlled the game from that point. All right. Memories.
Yeah.
No? It's a pretty good time.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just ask a general question?
No.
Going from being a head coach to an assistant and sort of changing between those two roles, like what are some challenges and like how do you manage them?
I don't think, yeah, good question. To me, and like the others can answer it, like there is like no challenge because every opportunity you get to coach is like special, and you put your ego aside from being like a head coach to assistant coach. So when you get opportunities to work with whatever team, for me personally, I always look at it as how can I help the players? My number one thing is how can I make each individual player or the team better? And so I kind of like, I don't think that I have like an ego at all. It's just about what can I do to help the players get better. And I was going to like say to finish up too is you guys do a critical job in what you do and whether you coach under 10s, under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, because you actually create the next wave of Queensland state players. You create the next wave of under 17 national team players, under 19s, the next boomers or opals. You might have someone like in the kids that you coach that you don't know. But I think it's our job, like as coaches, no matter whether we're head coach or assistant coach, is to do the best thing by your players to make them better, hold them accountable, coach them, do the right thing to give them the best experience they get in basketball so they want to continue to play, especially I think with girls. Give them the best experience. It's got to be fun, it's got to be enjoyable, that they've got to learn and they want to be coached. But pack your egos, our egos, like aside. It's not all about us coaching the shit out of the game. It's about making sure that they're getting better and that they're enjoying their experience in the game at the same time. And I think too, it's about like we do. I think we, as a great staff, we've got a great leader in Sandy, but we get along really well together. We know our roles and responsibilities, and I think that's got to be a clear thing as a head coach and assistant coach. What's your roles? What's your responsibilities? And I think that's got to be made clear when you're going into those like different levels. You've got to have good leadership, I guess, and clear role clarification. Not overstepping the line, but just do your job and do it well, I would say.
It's enjoyable to be both. So, I mean, and you learn so differently from both ones, because sometimes as the head coach, there's a lot of pressure for a whole lot of other things. So as an assistant coach, then you can work on a whole lot of different things that you could, you know, and it's helping the team. You don't do it for your own, but you can get in there and get your hands a bit dirtier. Whereas, you know, the head coach sometimes. So I think that both roles are fantastic. And as you say, we're really lucky that we've got Spag, who's one of the smartest coaches to work and learn from, and she gives us, you know, a little bit of freedom. So I mean, you do have to change what you're doing from a head coach to an assistant coach, but they're both great roles. I mean, I love them.
For me, I think it's about the people you work with. I think the mutual respect we've got for each other, because we're all different. We all use different words. We teach in a different way. But it's also understanding what Sandy's looking for and the support that she needs. And I think one of our themes is respect. And we respect each other. We don't have to agree with each other, and we debate stuff from time to time, but having a healthy respect for each other within the group and empathy and all those things are so important in a Opals or this sort of level. Okay, but I think for your players, the word that Cheryl used, making sure they're having fun, enjoying the game. We talk about fun yesterday. We want to work hard, because if you do the work, I think you get the rewards and you enjoy doing that. So it's not about, especially with girls, it's tough. Giggle, talk, but getting them to buy into your system and having them discipline. I'm a really strong believer. I hate penalties. I think my philosophy is that penalties, you have to have them at times, but penalties are a waste of practice time. Get the players to buy into what you're teaching and make them accountable for their actions. And you'll develop players, and you want them to enjoy this wonderful game of ours, because it is a great game.
One thing I would suggest, because I coach in the juniors a bit because I've got lots of kids, is that if you're a coach, it is hard work, and at the junior level it's really hard because the parents are, and I'm sure it's the same in Queensland as it is in Victoria, the parents
we have amazing parents.
Well, they can be really challenging and very difficult. So I would suggest to you, if you're a coach and you haven't got an assistant coach, go out and find yourself. And they don't have to know something about basketball. You can help teach them, but there's another adult there with you to help keep your energy up, to help have your back and all that sort of stuff. So, and if you haven't got one, go to your association, find your coaching director, tell them to help you find one, because mental health, you know, sometimes parents say stuff to me and I think, wow, where did that even come with? And I'm pretty resilient because I've been knocked down many a times, as you do as you coach. But if you haven't got someone there by your side, and also it's not as enjoyable. I mean, the kids are great and lovely, but you know, every now and again things are hard and you want to say to someone, oh, let's just go and have a coffee and worry about this, and you know, that sort of thing. And they can help you coach. So I would recommend that you get out there, and the coaching directors won't like you because it's really hard to find lots of coaches, but put it on them to try and help you if you can't find someone. But get yourself some help and some support.
And I would say my last thing is like how you build relationships both with, I guess, your players and your coaching staff, because to me, like, that's really important, about getting to know them like as people, what makes them tick, what makes them learn, what's going to help them like get better. And I think that's like the number one thing. They're not just a player, they're a person that is trying to either, and you know, there's two different types in juniors too, those that want to like just play with their friends and just roll around and rock up and just shoot hoops and go, and there's others that actually want to get better and become either a state team player or a national team player. So it's building relationships, and as Cheryl said, not only with your players but like with the parents, because it's going to be easier when you have to communicate that, and whether it's you or an assistant coach, because sometimes as a head coach, you know, you've got to have tougher conversations than what you do as an assistant coach, and that's kind of like the trade-off. And my last thing would be is be who you are. Don't try and be someone else like that you're not, because you end up getting caught out. So stick to the style and what you want to play and how you are as a person. Don't try and be like Chris Lucas, or don't try and be like Cheryl or me. As be yourself. Okay? I can't be as good looking as Cheryl.
Probably my thing would be, don't underestimate the impact you have on young people. As coaches, something that I realised a long time ago, coaching national championships, which I was fortunate enough to do 12 or 13 of those at under 18 level mainly. But the impact you have on particular, you know, we coach girls, but it's the same for guys. The impact you have as people and coaches on young people is so important, that they read everything. And you must, you know, I feel you need to be firm and fair, but be really, you know, make sure you're aware of what you're delivering to young people, because you have a huge impact on their lives, and more than you actually realise. I realised that a long time ago.